Today we're installing the finished flooring in our Sprinter camper van, which is Lonseal vinyl flooring in a cool blue with a Lonridge pattern. This stuff is very durable and if installed correctly can last a long time. We did use a two-part epoxy, which almost got away from us, so stick around to see what went right and what almost went wrong. In terms of materials needed, as mentioned, we went with the Lonseal flooring. It comes in a bunch of colors. We went with what's called Yale Blue, and we ordered it pre-cut to save time. The epoxy is also from Lonseal. It's purpose-made for this type of install and application. It's strong and heat resistant. It won't get soft if it gets 100 or 110 degrees, right, if the van is sitting out in the sun all day long. But it is two-part epoxy. So once you mix it, the clock starts ticking, so you're committed. The other things you need are painter's tape, a drill with a mixer tool, trowels, and these are specific to the epoxy, a linoleum roller, which we rented, and the safety item, of course, right? Which is, it's very important for this. You don't want to get the epoxy on your skin, really, or especially in your eyes. So disposable gloves, masks, and safety glasses. So for the prep, you want to make sure the surface is nice and clean. So we started with vacuuming and then wiped the subfloor down with a little water and a rag, letting it dry before starting. I also filled the gaps between the subfloor and wheel wells with expanding foam, and I trimmed it flush with the floor after it's set. I also took out the bottom wall furring strip just to get it out of the way and leave room for the floor install. The lower wall panels will go in after the flooring, right? So this clears the way. Now, the final step before install, get everything up and out of the way, attach any loose wiring and lights. You don't want anything falling into the glue as you're installing the floor, and then clean it one last time. So, step one, flooring dry fit and roller prep. Before mixing the epoxy and starting, I rolled out the flooring to check for fit. There are slight differences in these vans, right? Different years can be slightly different, and also wheel wells can vary, right? So if you have dual wheels in the back or super single rear wheels, which is what we have on this van, that can vary, right? So I did have to trim a little bit around the wheel wells. I also took some photos of where I had marked beams and things on the subfloor in case I needed that info in the future after it was covered up by the flooring. So the roller I rented from Home Depot was a little bit rusty, which is not unusual. So we cleaned it off and taped the entire surface with painter's tape. You also want to make sure it doesn't have any nicks or burrs, right? So it's heavy and could cut the new flooring if there's something sharp sticking out. I did mark where the seat cutouts would go with painter's tape just so we knew where they were, and taped off a bumper trim to protect it from the epoxy. Now, step two, the actual install. We started with the driver's side. The idea was to epoxy and lay that half down and then move on to the passenger side. This allows us to move around from front to back within the van as we're working. So now it's go time. We mix the epoxy. We pour the smaller container labeled Part B into the larger one labeled Part A and start mixing. So once you mix these, you've got a limited amount of time, right? It says working time is about 30 minutes, and they're not joking, right? So have everything ready ahead of time. And the guidance here is to follow the mixing ratio precisely. So let all of the Part A drip out of the container to make sure you get it all. It will ensure proper curing. Also, just as a contingency, I had an extra half gallon of unmixed epoxy just in case this first batch set up and we weren't done, but we didn't end up needing it. Next step, trowel it on. We troweled carefully but quickly. These notches help ensure the epoxy spreads at the right thickness, and it gets harder to work with as it sets. So keep moving, but don't miss spots or you could have a bubble where the flooring doesn't stick down. So as luck would have it, about 11 minutes in, our camera battery died and nobody noticed. We were so focused on what was happening in front of us, spreading the epoxy, and the fact that it was taking longer than we'd anticipated, and we could actually feel the epoxy getting thicker as we went, right? We were getting nervous, right? So we just got after it. We finished the driver's side and then we rolled the flooring on to the driver's side, and then we went to the passenger side. I will say by the end, the epoxy was very thick, very difficult to lay down. Again, I was getting nervous as time went on and it got harder and harder to spread out, but we made it. So now the hard part is over. Take a deep breath, enjoy the beauty for a minute, And I do love the flooring, by the way. I think it looks great, it's durable, but on to the next step, which is using the linoleum roller. So we took off our shoes and gloves to avoid, tracking the epoxy in, and made sure our hands and clothes didn't have any epoxy on it either, right? So the instructions call out a 3-section roller, a minimum of 100 pounds, which is what we have here. So you will roll it almost immediately when you get done laying it down for the first time, and then again 2 to 3 hours later, you'll roll it again, right? So as you roll, check for any epoxy that squeezes or oozes out, especially at the floor edges and wire pass-throughs. Again, you don't want to get any of this on the roller and then roll it on to the nice finished floor. So on the final pass, just walk backwards, rolling out any footprints you leave. And even if you can't see them, they might be there, they might just be slight. So that's all for the rolling after the second rolling, right? So the last step here for the flooring for us was trim. We purchased and installed trim pieces at the front, rear, and slider door. I also removed a piece of trim at the bumper to clean it out. The trim pieces really finish it off nicely. And just a note here about planning. My original plan was to do the troweling solo and have my wife there to assist if needed. I heard this stuff is no joke, right? And once you start, you have to finish fully, or you could have a big issue with a partially installed floor and dried epoxy. So at the last minute, I decided to buy a second trowel that my wife could use, and we would both just do it together to ensure we got it done in time, right? Just didn't want any issues with it. I also asked my daughter to be there on standby if needed, just to grab things for us, right? And I will say that we needed every bit of that. All three of us were moving fast, and we needed to be. We were sweating, scrambling around, right? Grabbing tools, wiping off shoes where we got some on us. It was controlled chaos, right? So without the three of us, we could have gotten into a lot of trouble with this stuff. So my point is, build in contingency with when working with the epoxy. More than you think you need. That if you need it, it's there and you'll have no problems, right? I'll also say that I will use this again, even though it was stressful. I've read some of the other adhesives just aren't as good in extreme temperatures that these vans can have, right? If they're sitting in the sun closed up for a day. But I'm confident now with the floor. I know it's installed, with the right material, the right adhesive for the application. It will withstand those harsh conditions. So here's the final result. Very happy with how this turned out. I personally love the color. I think the pattern looks pretty cool, and I expect that this floor will last for a long time. And that's it for the video. Like and subscribe for more Sprinter van build content. And if you'd like to see our Ram ProMaster build series, click here on the link on the screen. If you'd like to see more videos from this series, have a link for that as well. And we'll soon be getting into electrical and water systems, so check back for that. And that's it. Thanks for watching.
Yay, Vans!